Welcome back to Phantom Power Hour.
Welcome back.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Jeremy.
Hello. Hello?
No.
How are you, Jeremy?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Have you had a busy week?
It's been, yes, the wife has gone on a business trip again, which we're fine. But it's also like mixing a documentary and a couple songs, a couple records. I like doing like different stuff. So it's keeping me on my toes. But I also haven't been like gym bro. Haven't been getting to the gym like I want to get though. So getting a lot done, but not the way I want to get it done.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's good, though. I mean, you're getting the stuff done, so you still get that kind of chemical reaction in your brain that feels good and gets you feeling accomplished. But I don't know. Does it affect you pretty heavily when you don't get to go to the gym?
Yeah. And I mean, it's always weird to talk about on a video. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, go to the gym. I'm definitely that guy, even though it doesn't really look like it, but it really messes with your head.
It does when you don't get it in.
Because I like going and like I'll start with, because I'm getting older. So I definitely start with like a walk, like a 30-minute, like really hard walk, like set the treadmill up, like get the tibialis going.
Using those fancy words today.
I have the most problem. I know this is not where we wanted this to go, but so I wear barefoot shoes and I have for like 2 years now. I had weird foot problems and being like a big guy. I've always had like a lot on my frame and like shoes and feet and knees. Like you notice it more the older you get.
True.
Switching to barefoot shoes has been like fantastic. So then you notice a weakness in other spots and the tibialis, that muscle from your foot to your knee.
Yeah.
It does a whole lot.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize wearing like elevated heel shoes, how much it kind of changes the distribution for the rest of your body.
If I put them on now, like, I mean, I don't always wear barefoot shoes. If I'm just casually wearing something, they're barefoot. And if I put on like my dress shoes, like I'm looking nice, looking spiffy going somewhere, I feel like my toes are like in a tiny little box, and I'm gonna fall over because my heel's up off the ground.
That's man. This sounds like it is a first world problem, and it's one of those like, how does he even complain about this? But when I have to play like wedding gigs or something, or a more formal occasion, and I have to wear dress shoes, but I'm standing with a bass hung over me for like 3 or 4 hours. That's the worst pain I feel after a show. I could play a metal show and I'm wearing my Vans and I'm headbanging and stuff, and like I feel great the next day. I'm fine. But put me in a formal occasion where I stand still in dress shoes holding a bass, my whole back's hurting, my feet are hurting, you know. But
what are your everydays?
My everydays are usually Vans, some kind of really flat shoe. I was wearing those boots for a while because I destroyed my other Vans, and now I have new Vans.
Lives in Vans down by the river. What kind of shoes do you wear?
Yeah, what's your go-to shoe? Is it, if they're black Air Forces, then we know something shady's going on. But aside from that,
I don't know shoes to know what that reference means.
That's okay. Well, welcome back. If you've been here before, welcome for the first time. If you've never been here. If it is your first time, or you just haven't done this yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. You know, help us out a little bit so we can help you out a little bit.
Do it!
He's going to get angry, and I don't like Jeremy when he's angry. I've never seen you angry, is the thing. So don't make it a first.
I get comments on my videos, like some people who'd pop in for like 1 or 2, they're like, why are you always so mad? Like, do I give that vibe off?
I don't. Maybe it's because I know you for real, and so
maybe
that's a different lens to see.
The RBF is real with me for sure. Like if I'm just standing there thinking, you'd probably think I was mad.
I get that. I mean, me too, I suppose. I have a low brow and stuff, and I've had multiple people like at the gym tell me that like once we actually have to interact or something, I've gotten the comments of like, oh, you're actually not, like, you're kind of nice.
Everybody's like intimidating at the gym, though.
I mean, you're working hard. You furrow the brow. You're breathing heavy. You know,
you're there to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there to make friends.
Definitely not. But I like having friends. Are you my friend?
Somebody come be Josh's lifting buddy, please.
I don't know. I don't love lifting with other people. I lifted with others when I was learning the ropes, but now I like to zone out entirely, put my blinders on, and just, I don't know, work hard.
How long are you normally there for?
It depends on how much time I have allotted in the day. I really try to format every day to be where I have a window of 2 hours, so I can have a 15-minute cardio warm-up of some kind, 15-minute stretching, which I know you're not supposed to do static stretches before you lift, so don't hit me with all that. It works for me. I like it. I haven't hurt myself. And then I do usually an hour and 15 of a lift of some kind, and then like 15 minutes in the sauna. That's like an ideal time allotment. If I have the opportunity, I will go longer, and I'll lose my time there, and it doesn't really matter. I've been at the gym for 4 hours before.
Yeah. Well, same. I don't do any stretching though. I do all my stretching through the lifts themselves. But this has been very recent.
Yeah.
Because I watched like Dr. Mike Israetel, I believe. And like every stretch now is like, I thought I was going like full range of motion, and now it's like, get the entire stretch. Like, oh my gosh. It feels so good.
Oh, I for sure focus on like the stretch and squeeze and stuff. Yeah. And I actually, when I started for the first 2 years or maybe even more, I didn't stretch at all. And then I finally did. I started doing yoga and stuff, and I realized like, oh, like my body does not move the way it's supposed to. Like I've got a lot of tight stuff, and then I start stretching and then realize like, oh, now this part feels tight because it has been overcompensating for like my whole life. And I have like a bum knee from a pretty extreme injury from almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. But all of that too, trying to stretch those parts out. And the short of it is I have a like reconstructed patellar tendon. So everything on my left side is like way out of whack in comparison to my right side, which throws out the hips and throws out the back. So
is that scary on big lifts?
It used to be way more scary. Yeah.
Oof.
I still push it on free weight stuff like squats and deads, but I'm much more reserved when it comes to pushing it on those types of lifts. But if it is a machine-based lift where I have either a safety of some kind or I have an easier way to distribute weight, so like a seated leg press or a belt squat or something, or hack squat, there I'm way more inclined to just like push it up to failure for any given day.
See, I'm always afraid to push to failure on a hack squat.
Yeah.
Without somebody there.
Does yours have the little things that you can pull in? It does,
but not below a certain point.
Yeah.
So.
I've definitely gotten pinned a couple times and had to squirm out. But have you ever? Man, this is welcome to the Phantom Lifter Hour. On the hack squat. Ooh, ring, 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 banana phone.
That is so weird. I literally thought about this guy this morning out of nowhere.
I think I know that guy.
Yeah.
How do I know that guy? Is he a guitar player? Maybe I'm thinking of someone completely different. But
we did a song of his. Wow, that's weird.
Oh.
The universe is weird, man. I'll call him back. But that's wild. I was thinking about him today.
We do. Have you ever done on the hack squat? It's like one of the knees over toes guy methods. I've seen Smith Julian do it too, but tippy toes at the bottom of the foot platform.
I'm too nervous. Dude, I know exactly what you're talking about. And
try it with no weight at first, because you definitely don't need much. But
the way ours is set up, Sorry, this is a gym talk now. So the way
Who's
our
gym?
platform is set up, like you can put there's a hole right here,
Okay.
and it just drops all the way to the ground. So if I'm worried if I get the stretch too deep and then slip, like
Oh,
it's gonna
okay.
rake
So
my shins.
that's the stretch part. I do that type of stretch on a seated leg press, like an inclined leg press. What I'm talking about is tippy toes towards the bottom of the platform, and then you go down, push the knees out to where your like toes are on the platform, and then you try to touch your knees to the top of the platform.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that.
Try it with no weight. It's an insane like quad stretcher. And all the, like, you know how it feels to stretch like the top part of the quad? And then do you know how it feels to stretch like the quad right around the knee?
No, I've never gotten it.
Well, there you go. Try it out. Try it out.
All right. Who's stuck with us?
You still here? Maybe you're at the gym right now. Go try it, but be safe. Knees over toes stuff is
This would be the type
risky.
of thing I would listen to at the gym.
Yeah.
I like podcasts every once in a while.
Every once in a while. Sometimes I need just like a really heavy playlist, and sometimes I can split my focus and listen to a podcast or something.
Where are you listening to us from? I'm curious. And also, what are you listening to us on? Sometimes I'll listen to like a podcast, put my phone in my pocket,
This is true.
just listen while I'm doing other work. What are you doing? Are you sitting watching? Or are you just listening?
Are you sitting on the throne? Most likely. Who doesn't watch a podcast then?
Phantom Poopy Hour.
Are you currently being a 3D printer in human form? That's a callback to 2 episodes ago.
I mean, most of what we consume on this show is caffeine and protein. So
That's so true. The only thing you guys have ever seen us consume is protein, caffeine, and sometimes water.
we're just gym bros masquerading as musicians.
So last week, we were talking about this technology that's kind of sometimes overlooked or underappreciated in the music world. And a lot of the conversation kept coming back to emotional content within a song, or how it makes you feel, or what type of story are you trying to tell, and using emotion as a big tool of that. So I thought maybe this week we dig into that topic a little bit more. Maybe in what ways is emotion conveyed, and what are some of the techniques that you can use to either develop what you're trying to say emotionally, or pull more emotion out of something perhaps you've already recorded. And then towards the end of this, I want to see if AI can captivate us with emotion at all.
Okay.
You know, I'm just laying this out here. And if we take some longer scenic routes to get there, that's fine. At the very least, what's it called? Suno. I want to see if Suno, what kind of prompts can we give it regarding emotion? What kind of results are we going to get out of it? And is it going to follow some of these methods that we have talked about or thought about?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bite.
I think it might be fun. Don't bite. That's rude. Or fun.
Don't tip me with a good time. So I think with some of the emotion in like a chordal state, you would be more apt to speak to that. I mean, if we're talking numbers in theory, like I can hang to a certain extent, but not to the level that you and a lot of the other guys can do it.
Do you think that, I mean, I know that you've done a lot of charting for us, and it seems pretty apt, pretty on point, but do you think you would ever be interested in, I don't know, maybe finding a course or something that could help you out with some of the more heady ideas?
You know what? I think so.
You think so? I happen to know that there's this place that's called Recording Studio Academy. It's funny. It's very similar to a name that you use, Recording Studio Loser. Interesting. But if you go there right now, Recording Studio Academy.
Actually, it's actually Recording Studio University.
Did I say Academy both times?
It's okay. I mean, I've got both of them. So
if you go to recordingstudiouniversity.com, Jeremy, you could sign up for, you could enter your email, And after you do that, you're going to start getting these updates, and you're going to be ready for when the courses launch, and maybe even some other things like templates, for example.
It's we're definitely working on it. It's going to be changing the more we get into this, but we've got some pretty cool ideas because there's a whole educational side just from my channel that I've wanted to get out that just doesn't work on YouTube. And I think there's like more heady stuff that we've wanted to talk about, or even like very ground level 101 stuff. And it's just, this seems like a good outlet. And there's already a lot of people signed up.
Yeah.
At this point. And there's nothing you're signing up for. Nothing costs money at this point. This is just like, are you interested? We would like to know if you're interested. And if you are, go sign up. That gets you like information when stuff's going to drop. I mean, we're still a ways out. So
to put a ribbon on it, we're going to have some courses that will be coming out with as time goes on, and they'll encompass everything from, like Jeremy said, entry-level theory stuff or entry-level, recording and mixing different aspects of that, intermediate stuff, advanced stuff, very niche stuff, very general stuff, all-encompassing stuff. And we just really want to know if that's something you're into. If you want to learn a little, improve a little bit.
Let's go. recordingstudiouniversity.com.
What was that website that used to say something.com?
I don't remember. All I can think is Jared Polin, the camera YouTuber.
Does he
Fronosphoto.com.
Oh,
every time.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Every video.
So there are some pretty sophisticated chord progression ideas, intervallic relationships that can help convey different emotional intent and ideas and emotion. But I don't think we have to get too nitty gritty. I don't want to get way into the weeds of it, but there are some topical things that we can think about. And are you able to play chords in general on that thing?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, if we were to do something like a 6-5-4 progression, something really straightforward, it doesn't matter what key you're in. If you don't fully understand what I'm saying, this is called the number system. We're not going to go into how to use it right now. We will for sure have some course on it, but you could also, if you're curious and the course isn't out yet, you can learn this kind of stuff all over the place. A 6 is just kind of naturally going to be a minor chord if it's fitting diatonically within the key, which just means all the notes from all the chords fit in the same key. So we would have a minor 6 chord walking down to a major 5 chord and then walking down to a major 4 chord. And even if these are all just triads, just really bare bones chords, you're going to get something that is more in the range of being melancholy, being kind of sad. And there is a whole science behind all this. If you're interested in it, then I heavily recommend dipping your toes into that, seeing some of the kind of neural connections that happen when you... Ooh.
I want to make sure the screen cap gets audio. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's see.
There you go. A 6, a 5, and a 4 is usually going to give you some type of sad or melancholy kind of feel. Obviously, so many other variables with the timbre of the instrument you're using, the tempo. It might not sound as sad if you have a really like groovy jungle beat going on behind it. But these are like some really broad stroke ideas that are kind of tried and true. If you're aware of it, you're going to start hearing this kind of stuff all over the place when you're listening to music. Whereas if you have something, let's say just the opposite, 4, 5, and 6, now it's almost like, depending on how you play it, it could be a heroic feel. It could be something more like hopeful even. Again, all based on timbre, tempo, things like that. There are other smaller emotions that can be conveyed with chord progression and chord relationships as well. Usually this is more along the lines of how am I structuring the chord? So if you have a suspended chord of some kind.
So like a 4 sus2?
Yeah. 4 sus2. That chord could be by itself and it is open. It can make you feel a range of things, especially in whatever context. But what comes to mind to me mostly is something like wondering with an O. So you're thinking about something thoughtful, something that is not at home, because the intervals within that chord aren't at home. They want to be somewhere else. They haven't gotten to their destination yet. Therefore, that type of feeling is also being conveyed with a chord like that.
Mm-hmm. And that suspension, like if we're in the key of C here, so like a normal 4 would be F, A, C. So a sus2, we're changing that A to a G. Mm-hmm. So there's like inherent tension in that chord. And so if you're going to do that same 4, 5, 6, and then a sus2, kind of gross. Nothing is solid. Mm-hmm. But if you spot those around,
yeah,
like a little spice here and there, just adds so much to like a potential story.
Exactly.
Sorry, I interjected.
No, please interject all you want. There is a litany of these types of ideas and formulas, if you want to think about them that way, patterns, if that works better for you. But this is not a masterclass on all the emotional patterns that happen in music, and it's also not the end-all be-all. Some of the other factors in this whole realm can even be what key are you playing in. That starts to dip more into the kind of a little bit more of the scientific side of it, but the way that these notes resonate with each other, given our traditional tuning system that we have, there are different harmonic sequences for every given key that can either feel a little darker or a little brighter. If you do want a masterclass on that, Jacob Collier has an incredible kind of live speaking video that he did at, I think, MIT. It's a few years old now, but he talks a lot about that concept of, as you're looking at the circle of fifths and your key signatures, he kind of plays different examples rotating around there clockwise and counterclockwise using the same chords. So, for example, the same 6-5-4, but then rotating throughout the keys, and you still have the same base foundation of, well, 6-5-4 feels kind of sad, but it has a little bit of a different flavor depending on the key that you're using.
Mm-hmm. And then you can get into like, what instruments are we using? How are those instruments tuned? What can I best do to, like, if I actually want the 6-5-4 to go down, because the 6-5-4 is just that. It's a 6-5-4. The way you're playing that, if you're reading a chart, is completely up for interpretation.
Yep.
But one of the things I try to do, like right along with looking at what a vocalist can do as far as range and making sure I'm within that range, I'm also trying to figure out the instruments themselves. Where do these chords fall on the neck? And when you can make those two things make sense, like if you want that, like your 4-5-6 or 6-5-4 hits on a bridge, and I just want that to be just a low E or something, like I want to make sure that's an open spot.
Yeah.
Wherever possible. So there's a lot of different ways to think about it.
Definitely. Yeah. And this is not even the tip of the iceberg. This is like a snowflake that is falling onto the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to it. But hopefully, especially if you're not familiar with these kind of ideas at all, it can kind of be a doorway into thinking about music a little bit differently. And one of the cool things about, I think, everybody, the more you are aware of what's going on musically, the more your ear is going to pick up on this. So if this is the first time you ever hear about this, you might not know what a 6-5-4 sounds like, but you will be aware of these things existing. And now when you listen to a song, you can hear a little bit deeper. Maybe the song makes you feel happy. Well, maybe you notice that in that song, a lot of the chords feel like they're going to a place that is at home instead of being a little bit more open and ambiguous. Or maybe you hear something that is supposed to raise your anxiety. You know, maybe this is a sound track at the scary part of a movie you're watching or a Netflix series or something. There are a lot of techniques that get used to paint that picture, to illustrate that picture, and usher your mind into this range of emotion that it's trying to convey.
Mm-hmm. And if you're curious what this app is, too, if it made it on the screen, it's Suggester. It's super cheap. I have it on every device just because it's super easy to pound out ideas. Mm-hmm. And like, even if we want to do like let's build something real quick just for fun here. Mm-hmm. So if we have like a 6, 4, 1, 5
classic,
and that's like our typical verse, and say we want to go like our bridge is like,
can we do a 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
And then just a second 4.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that. I love a good 2, 3, 4 bridge.
And then just to illustrate it, let's do our 6, 5, 4, 5, 6. So we come over here and it built the song out for us. So like 6, 5, 1, 4. I hit the
2. Also a good sound. There we go.
Very bright.
Yeah.
Very verse.
And even within that little example right there, we end on the 5, which is a solid
4.
Oh, 4. Sorry, I'm reading backwards, sitting over here. If you're savvy, you know that in Roman numerals, 4 backwards is not 5. There is no backwards of 5. We end on a 4 though. 4. Oh my gosh, what's happening to my brain? We end on a 4. Which feels nice. The 4 feels at home, but it also feels like it still wants to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. So it's like leading you. It's like a checkpoint. Mm-hmm. You know, it's leading you somewhere else, but it's not there to rest indefinitely. But you ever like ending a song on a 4?
Oh yeah,
feels real nice.
I mean, one of the things with super amateur charts that you get, and we just had a session where I had to write charts for it, mm-hmm. and there were ones all over this thing. And part of the struggle is like, if everything feels final, nothing feels final. Mm-hmm. So it can come off as really, really cheesy. It can come off as pedantic, I suppose. So as long as it makes sense for the story, do you want to like almost get somewhere, pull back, almost get somewhere, pull back.
And then almost get somewhere and leave it there.
Yeah. Make them want more. But your 2, 3, 4. Mm-hmm. And you could even like do a minor 4.
Yeah, you could.
Wanted.
Ooh, Jeremy, you already know I love minor 4s.
But all sorts of things. You got your... I have some interesting chords in here, man. 5, 7. Why did I get a 7th chord? But play with something like this. And there's a lot of apps that do this. Suggester is just an easy one that exists on the phone, on the iPad, on the computer. And I can really quickly build charts like that. And if you want to, you could actually hear it in like a lot of different other things.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And you can even have it do like, arpeggios for you. Pretty sure. Oh, it must only be on the
computer version.
Must only be on the computer. But
yeah, there are also tons of other like plug-in versions of tools like this too. Chordify, Cthulhu, just to Chord Jam, just to name a few. Captain Chords. I'll keep naming them, I guess. But at the end of the day, anything you get your hands on that does something like this can help almost like self-educate your ear.
Yeah. And even if you sit there and do stuff or with songs that you're listening to, you start figuring out patterns you really like. Figuring out like, what is this song that I listen to all the time? Why do I keep coming back to this one section? Or why this feels so nostalgic? And it's super helpful to see it on paper and be like, that's actually not that complicated.
Yeah.
Even if you can't hear it immediately in context, and I'm not really that good at it, there's some songs where I can be like, okay, 4 or 5. 6, 2. Yeah, I can do that. That's actually how I practiced for a worship gig last week.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I didn't pick up an instrument at all. I was like, okay, got the numbers. We're fine. But you can start to do those little things, but you will really quickly start to recognize patterns. And it's not even necessarily memorizing like that's what a 4 sounds like. It's the relationship. It's this move from a 1 to a 4 or from a 6 to a 4. Like that's the stuff that you really pick up on and makes everything so much easier in your own songs that you're trying to make. And when you're stuck in a position, you can quickly go back to this like bank you've made up in your brain, and you're not just like hunting for chords. Now you have like, okay, this specific shape usually elicits this emotion for me. Let's try that.
And a lot of the time too, those chordal relationships, that's what, like, you ever been to a show, like a concert, and there's other musicians in audience?
Oh yeah. Animals as leaders.
And something happens, and then you look over and that musician just has a stank face, or they go like, woo. Sometimes it's those chordal relationships. Other times it's like sick, nasty riffs, but you know, a little bit column A, a little bit of column B. So there's a whole other world of how we can utilize chord structure, intervallic relationships, timbre, tone, put some Foley of a rainstorm happening and make a lo-fi beat with that. And it's either going to be cozy or it's going to be sad, you know? So there's a whole world of that stuff. But what are some other things? I keep coming back to thinking about how this is used in the cinematic universe. But we have like atmospheres and full on like world building. And I personally think that things like other Foley design fit into this category as well, of like feeling some emotional response. Maybe it doesn't happen as much from the singer-songwriter perspective, but making these sound like something else to fit the environment, you know? But are there any, let's think atmosphere, right? And this can be seen in church music, in TV shows, movies, but atmosphere, synth sounds, maybe even like some piano layered on top or strings or something. Is there anything that like comes to mind when you hear these? Maybe it's how they're layered, or it could be chordal structure. What are some things that stick out to you in memory for like making you feel a certain way, or techniques that made you feel a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely harder to identify when you're on the listener side of it. You just kind of feel it as it happens. And I mean, I'm not a good enough keys player to do stuff like that. What I can say from the creation side of it, when I'm on that side of the glass, like as a producer looking at it, the most dramatic impacts you can have come from contrast. Because I mean, I think about this with a lot of like heavier records that I do, especially with bands that are like greener. Like everybody wants everything to be big, all the time. The problem with that is, I mean, just like from like an emotional standpoint, like if everything is big, nothing is big. You have to give the listener some point of reference. And same thing with this like nostalgic emotional because some of the coolest like records, and there's some really interesting like kind of retro 80s like synth poppy stuff that just feels so good, and it can seem like massive, I guess. Like it's taking up all this space, but if you really sit and listen to the individual pieces, there's not a lot happening, but it's what's happening with those little pieces that makes everything else make sense in context. Like you could have these like little things happening on the side, like hyper pop. Hyper pop is just, it's massive all at you all the time, but there's so many tiny little things happening that make these bigger things make sense. Like there's these tiny little percussion hits on the sides.
I love that stuff so much.
Yeah. Or like with ambient music, you wouldn't think of it like, but you're protecting transients like crazy because you have these ridiculous reverb tails on so many other aspects. But if you don't have something hitting on a transient, then maybe the reverb doesn't make as much sense as you think it makes. So there's a constant balance of like give and take in a relationship there. And all of that like is conducive to emotion. But I think emotion is so subjective that if you're trying to hit an emotion, you're never going to hit it.
Yeah.
It's like I had an acting class a long time ago. And it was like, if you're trying to make me feel something, don't. You need to feel something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that clicked for so many other aspects other than acting, which I cannot act. So, but learning that lesson, like I can't try to make you feel something. I can't try to make you feel something. I have to convince myself genuinely that I feel something. And then that gets whatever I'm doing, gives it meaning and context.
Yeah.
And that informs so many other decisions because these are so many like micro things. I think that the big game one there when we're talking like how to get the emotion to the listener through all these other things that happen, songwriting, mixing, mastering, editing, like all of these things being equal, it's like a convolution of all these very small decisions and protecting of the intention behind it. From a mixing standpoint, like that contrast can come in a whole lot of different ways. Like things that I like to use, like especially when we're talking like heavy records, like saturation.
Oh yeah,
is a big one. Like how hard do you have iron that you can hit? Meaning, like my converters are burl. There's transformers on transformers on transformers on transformers.
Hey yo, I heard you like transformers, so I put some transformers on your transformers.
Exactly. I mean that is a burl setup.
His whole studio is about to turn into a semi and drive away. It's an Optimus Prime.
Transformers. More than meets the eye.
Robots in disguise.
But when you're hitting that much metal on the way in, like it gives there. It's a sound. I'm not going to say anything other than that. It's a sound. And you know what it is because you've experienced it, and you've also experienced like this studio when it was way more sterile.
Yeah.
And you've probably been to a lot of other spaces where there's a lot of different vibes. No one vibe is correct. It's those little tiny decisions and how they inform the decisions before that and the decisions after that. I don't. Is any of this making sense?
I think so. I think it's making sense and dollars.
It's a weird thing to talk about.
It's really tough to contextualize something like human emotion past this makes me feel happy, this makes me feel not happy.
Yeah, well, and the decisions there within, like if I want to give you like a summer jam, just a feel good summer jam, there's definitely like mixing things that are happening there. Now, talking about them in context is definitely hard because I can't tell you specifically what makes a summer jam.
Yeah.
Because every artist is different. Every voice is going to be different.
But I bet something popped in your mind and you have a personal reason why it fits that category of a summer jam for you. Maybe it is nostalgia and it came out one summer when you were 12 years old and you heard it on the radio. Now it's stuck that way. Or maybe you hear it any time of the year and something about that song makes you want to drive down a country road with your arm doing the wave thing out the window. You know?
And when I think about that, because I have a song that pops into my head immediately and I don't want to describe it too much because I don't want to influence whatever you're thinking about. But when I do think about those things, and when I am listening to references for bands, and even when I'm going through this right now with a band, there's a whole list of references that these guys want to sound like, and there's a certain emotional context that they want to hit. They're a little greener in the studio. One instrumentalist in particular is very green in the studio, but has the longest list of requirements that we're trying to hit.
Yeah.
So listening to those things, I not only have to get it in my own head, like, okay, this is how are they connecting sonics to emotion? and listening to the certain patterns of what they gave me. Like it's a lot of heavier records. I mean, I don't want to say what it is because I don't want the band to be like, I don't want to give away who the band is. Not that you would know, they would know. And trying to contextualize for myself, okay, what of this is sonics and how is it coming out in them in emotion? And listening through the stuff, so many of the references are so different that it's very clear as I'm listening through this stuff, like it's eliciting a nostalgic reaction to this person, and they want to feel like that record.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want to sound like that record. They want to feel the way they felt listening to that record. But there's a few tools that I can do to kind of get in that area without getting like sonically dead on. And for me, those things are like EQ, saturation, reverb. And I mean, obviously dynamics fall into that. I mean, you're basically just describing every tool I have available.
Jeremy,
to me.
why don't you just explain all the parts of a song?
Yeah, for the most part, the space that you're defining this stuff in.
Like, is this in a large live room, or is this like a smaller slapback style kind of reverb going on? That kind of stuff.
Or on the hyper opposites, like, should I make you feel claustrophobic here? Like, there's just no room for you to move around in this mix, or should I give you like just a massive soundstage? EQ wise, it's what's close to you, what's far away, how close are you to the source, how close are the transients to your ears, and then saturation wise, how clear and defined is everything, how now is it, if that makes sense. And those things combined give you like this wide palette of what can I make you feel? Because I could take the same drum set and just manipulating those three things, I could make it feel very, very retro, and I could make it feel very, very modern.
Yeah.
But even describing those words means something very different to even you and me sitting right
so
here.
True. Yeah.
So it's the hard part is defining it and understanding what the artist wants when they define it to you. The trick is learning to listen to these things with, like, I don't know, a filter is not the right word, but being able to really latch on to what's happening and then take what your artist is saying. How does it apply to this song? How does it apply to the equipment that we have? How does it apply? And there's going to be a balance there the whole time, but coming up with that contrast, if I can make something the hyper opposite of what you want, now this thing makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's the easiest tool when I'm talking about like eliciting a response in a listener or in a band in the room. Sometimes it's giving them the exact opposite of what they want to make that other thing make sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's a good answer or not.
I don't think there is a good or bad answer with all this. A lot of it is subjective. It's so strange because on one hand, you and I could hear two totally different things out of that original 6-5-4 progression, right? Just because I say it gives this kind of melancholic vibe, a little like sadder than the 4-5-6 example, that doesn't mean you feel it that way. And I've talked to students before about this, and in this context, I can't ask you individually how it makes you feel or what kind of emotion it elicits after you hear it. So I just have to talk about kind of my perception of it. But I've had some students that hear it and they have a drastically different initial gut reaction to the chords that I play.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to me. But so on one hand, it's so personalized and it's really tough to talk about it in a lot of intricacies because it's personalized. But then on the other hand, it's also so universal, the way that when something really comes together and you can feel that this artist or this band or this person, whatever, felt this way and accurately, successfully put that to recording and now it's in your ears, and now you're also feeling that.
It's when it's done right and there's a lot of complicated things happening. I'm trying to think of like a specific record, and if I can remember what it is at the end, I'll give it to you, and then you can play it like right now or put it up on the screen. But when there's a lot of very complicated things happening, but it's all going by in a very natural way, and there's a lot of, I guess, weird pieces that normally wouldn't fit together, but you're not consciously recognizing those things happening. You're just along for the ride. That's when, like, you know, it was done right. And that's when you want to throw out like a mental anchor to come back to this one thing. Like, okay, I need to analyze what happened over here. Like, was it chord decision? Was it arrangement? Was it what happened before this section that made this one make sense? Or is it just the chemicals in your brain at this moment that are making you vibe really hard on this thing?
Another piece of this puzzle, though, is the rhythmic aspect, and how rhythm can also elicit these different emotions, or at least help enforce certain things that are trying to be felt, right? So if rhythmically the entire band is playing right on the beat, it's going to have a much different feel and vibe overall than if the whole band is a little bit behind the beat or pushing the beat ever so slightly. And that gets into the context of like whole genres. You know, punk music is all about pushing the beat. And like some punk groups are actually speeding up when they play, but that's not really the idea behind it. The idea is to have this more frantic feel. And you see that in metal sometimes, and then you look at neo soul music or a lot of R&B music that everybody's a little bit behind the beat. And so you have this entirely different vibe that is
the pocket gets deep
down to the knees.
We're wearing Jinkos.
Oh, man, I always wanted a pair of those. I never was allowed to get them, but I'm an adult now, so I can if I want to.
Go for it.
I don't want to.
They're coming back.
Are they?
I don't know.
I was excited for a second.
Go to Kohl's. Maybe you'll find some.
I don't think you could ever find Jinkos in Kohl's.
Maybe. Where do you buy your Jinkos?
Hot topic. Hot topic. Yeah, I don't know. Rhythm, the tone of things, the chord progressions, and relationship of the notes, the set and setting that you are creating for this piece of art that you're making. Every single variable goes into how am I conveying an emotion, or what emotion am I conveying? Even juxtaposing those two things. Maybe your song is about one thing that elicits one emotion, and then the musical bed you put the lyrics on are a completely different thing. That's cool too. Or maybe you're doing this like text painting where
that's the thing you just mentioned, like pumped up. Was it Pumped Up Kicks? Is that what the song's called?
Which one?
On the other kid, like horribly depressing lyric material, but that song's a bop.
Yeah.
And those two things juxtaposed are like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But man, is it an earworm.
It really is.
And how, like, you don't even really think of the lyrical content, but once you notice it, it hits you even harder because you're like, well, why did you put that over this?
Yeah.
But it makes it make so much more sense. Like that seems like a strange, but even that was a decision, right? Like that kind of emotional list. Like they took you for a ride.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But all those tools aside, can we see if Sona can create us anything that is emotionally packed?
Let's go.
Does AI know how to use emotion yet?
So what do we want to do? What do you want to make?
Well, what kind of emotion do you want to experience, Jeremy?
What's something like weirdly complex?
Is there an option to make it instrumental?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we should do that first of all.
Okay.
Because I don't think it would be fair to let it include lyrical content.
How about like nostalgic sadness? about getting older. That's very specific.
But with a hopefulness of what the future could bring. That way we have maybe a journey of emotions or something like that.
It's going to do this in like 1 minute. Because it only gives you like 60 seconds. So how do you want it expressed? What type of music?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like a string quartet? What do you want? A choir?
Let's do, can it do something like a chamber orchestra?
Yeah.
Let's try that. I feel like, and maybe this is just my own personal, like how I experience music. I think letting it use strings makes it pretty easy. So maybe we start out with that. I personally experience strings as a very emotionally packed instrument.
I'm going to say choir too. Let's give it the whole darn thing.
If you're not familiar, this is Suno.
Suno AI. I'm using the version 3 algorithm, and we are doing instrumental.
If you are on the interwebs even the slightest, then you've probably come across some of the crazy high-level meme songs about people pooping their pants and stuff that people have made with this thing, and they're awesome.
So I don't know if it totally worked because it says just acoustic. I may have put typically it wants what style in the beginning of the song description, so it may not have gotten it totally right.
That's okay. Let's see what it says.
That's not the right one. Sounds like House of the Rising Sun.
A little bit. Those arpeggios.
It's landing on a major chord for the hopefulness.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
It's kind of tasty.
Is that a 4, 5, 6?
I think so.
Oh, it went back.
It went back down, yeah.
I mean,
4 to 6, right?
That's a pretty... I hate that move, but it's doing what we asked it to do.
It is, yeah.
So you get 2 versions. This is the second one.
Went with arpeggios for both of them.
That's pretty good.
This is pretty cool, yeah.
Very
nostalgic in a medieval way to me.
Yeah, I know. It's like Baroque.
Yeah, it's using like some of those Baroque structures and almost like arpeggiated patterns.
So let's do this a different way. I'm gonna change where I want this description.
So far, though, from those 2 examples, fairly successful using emotional material and kind of representing that, maybe not in the coolest way, but what seems like a tried and true way. In that first example especially, there was a lot of starting the phrase on a minor chord and maybe walking down, but then ending on a major chord because we told it to also make it feel hopeful. Mm-hmm. And that kind of aligns with some of the stuff that we started talking about with those chordal relationships there.
Let's do lots of suspended chords. So this one is chewing on this one a little more.
It says, I'm going to make you feel something. Does it generate the album art too?
It does.
That's so cool. That's fitting album art for the last one it made.
Yep.
Do you know what a hurdy-gurdy is?
Yeah.
I want one so bad.
I do too. They're really cool.
They're awesome. I just showed Kara for the first time because Kara's been playing The Witcher 3. I'm not going to go off into a gaming rant, even though I would love to. I finally finished Dragon's Dogma 2. It's a great game. You should play it. So is The Witcher 3. But very medieval style music in The Witcher. She also likes this other show that has like Scottish, like 1800 style music and stuff. She's all about that. And I was like, we should get a lyre. Those are fairly cheap, like a little hand harp kind of thing. And then I was brainstorming more. I was like, Kara, have you heard of a hurdy-gurdy? And she thought I was making it up, understandably so. Mm-hmm. Who names something a hurdy-gurdy?
It's like an organ meets a guitar. So
but it used violin strings.
Yeah, you have like a spinning wheel that basically is creating a drone for you, and then you can play over the top of that.
The way the way music is orchestrated with it, if you're not familiar, you can almost think of like a bagpipe, and the way a bagpipe has a drone note, and then you create a melody on top of it, or even chords on top of it. That's kind of how a hurdy-gurdy is played.
Very Viking-esque.
Precisely. And so she's in love with it, and I might convince her.
Oh, that's so bad. I've seen people laser cut them, and then you can kind of build your own.
Yeah, there's definitely like CNC plans online and stuff that you can get, but...
Here we go.
They really like birds for their album art. What's anything different about this prompt in terms of emotion? Is it still like nostalgia, sadness?
I told it everything the same thing, but I just said like a choir singing in a foreign language in the style of Eric Whitacre.
The beat does not make me feel sad.
No. But I guess if you're in your like mid 50s, like this is jam right here.
It's kind of a bop.
It's like Enya going to the club.
In your face. What's with all the birds? It's a conspiracy. Some chromatic movement. We didn't even talk about chromatic movement.
See, in here, it's using like EQ to elicit like a nostalgic.
Like it's almost like there's a low pass filter on everything.
Dark, distant, hopeless. Adding the upper voices.
Some cool harmonies.
This is all 654.
It's almost like there's some warble or something to it too. Like they put it through a vinyl emulation or something.
Like it's using dyads, so you don't really have you don't have a defined minor or major on the final chord.
Really ambiguous.
Might be over analyzing what it's doing here. That is interesting though.
I like that one more than the first one. I don't love the mixing style it went with, but I could see those same ideas incorporated into like a film score or something like that.
How about a Windows Down summer jam about being sad at school?
Oh, so putting some really conflicting ideas in here. And this is just any style they want, huh?
I'm not giving it, like I'm just telling it, here's what I want. So away from the classroom. When it does stuff with lyrics, it'll give you two versions of the song, but it'll use the same set of lyrics twice.
That's kind of cool.
And more birds. I don't know why we're in a bird mood.
Man.
It is on a bird vibe hard. Catchy.
Is it trying to tell us that birds aren't real? Okay, it's a bop.
That was me. I was trying to get to the lyrics. Oh, it's just instrumental. It's just doing instrumental for some reason. I don't need an
It
instrumental.
wasn't turned on when you hit it.
I know.
What about the other one?
Not a perfect system here. It's instrumental too.
Huh. Maybe it just didn't update.
Let's try the same one again.
Are we going to get more birds?
We'll see in a second. Endless Summer Blues. Ugh.
Pretty cringe.
So a lot of things are cringe with this.
I mean, what is cringe? It's a lot of like uber stereotypical things, right?
Cruising through these city streets, windows down, feeling the heat. But inside there's a different beat. School's out, but mine can't retreat. Nothing but blue skies above, but all I feel is this endless love. Wishing I could fly like a free dove, but these school days push and shove.
Oh, man.
First two.
Oh, no.
Every day, but something's missing. Can't find a way. Thought summer break will wash it away, but here I am, feeling this disarray.
Some of the lyrics are pretty solid. Some of them are a little kind of cringy, but you could workshop this and make a bop.
Yeah, you could.
And the chords are also pretty nice. They have some interesting bits in there.
See the second one. I mean, normally when you hear the second one, you're anchored. So it's kind of like the lyrics are cheesier on the second one.
Cruising through these city streets, windows down, feeling the heat, but inside there's a different beat. School's out, but my mind can't retreat. Nothing but blue skies above, but all I feel is this endless love. Wishing I could fly like a free dove, but these school days push and shove. Friends and laughter every day, but something's missing, can't find a way. Thought summer break would wash it away, but here
Cheesy.
I am,
Very cheesy.
feeling this disarray.
Oh, and now the beat comes in. Come on now. That first one's a bop. The first, I honestly, but if the first one was re-recorded and
Not bad, right?
no, it could definitely be on the radio, even
So-
with the cheesy lyrics. Because let's be honest,
I want
there's a good amount of cheesy lyrics on the radio right now.
Give me like a minor key melodic metalcore
I like where this is going.
with breakdown about being super happy about the perfect peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Oh yeah. Okay, Jeremy? What's your peanut butter to jelly ratio?
Equal.
Equal 50-50 split.
Strawberry jelly.
Okay. Well,
You animals.
I'm not going to be mad at you, but I will say that we could certainly not consume each other's jellies because I'm a great boy.
Ugh.
Hit me with that. Ooh, really? No. Hit me with that blueberry jelly, blackberry jelly, raspberry,
No.
all the berries.
I can meet you at apricot.
Dude, yes, that's some good jelly.
That's a sleeper jelly right
You
there.
ever had like a spicy apricot habanero jelly?
Yes, I'm not a fan.
Nah, you're a person. That's
Oh.
a fan behind the camera, keeping
Yeah.
the camera cool from
We
overheating.
haven't overheated.
Not at all today.
Okay, so this says it's pop, but I definitely wanted like melodic metalcore. That's weird.
Feeling the heaviness, darkness so profound. But then I found a perfect sandwich, oh so round. Smooth peanut butter, spreads like a
Okay, that's not what I want.
That's what I want.
I want
Smooth peanut butter.
melodic metalcore. I want like angry sounding stuff with a super happy message is what I want.
About peanut butter jelly.
feeling the heaviness, darkness so
Jelly
profound.
crushed my soul.
But then I found the perfect sandwich.
Oh my gosh, the crunchy harmony. So I think we have a metalcore song here about a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I can't think of two more juxtaposed emotions here. Not necessarily complex, juxtaposed.
A lot of major sounds in here, though.
Where's my breakdown? All right, here's our second one.
That's pretty happy feeling, though. Oh, I'm about to throw some bows. Hearing AI say happiness in a song doesn't normally translate.
There's the breakdown.
Let me hear that intro one more time.
It feels like Alpha Wolf.
Yeah.
Right there.
Whereas the last one felt kind of like A Day to Remember.
Yeah. If we had like the high pitched, like that would be Alpha Wolf. I think this is telling us more about emotion and music than what it's really doing, because it's playing off of our own emotions here. Mm-hmm. It's giving us like vague generalities of music.
Yes.
And there's even parts in here that are like, am I hearing a guitar playing this? Like, it's playing off of your own taste in music and your own emotion, and what are you going to project onto what you're hearing? Because I imagine you give this to a few different people and you're like, recreate this. You're going to get so many different versions of it, because it's like kind of pushing you in this direction to elicit an emotional response. That's probably not what it's trying to do. It's not like it's trying to get you to be emotional about it, but I think that's why it works. It's playing on your emotions, or you're impressing emotion onto this to like create something that's not quite there, because all of this is like shadows of music, I guess.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Like, shadows of music.
Like, these things aren't real. Nothing here is real, but you're hearing like parts in the background. Like, there's kind of something that's a little synthy, but there's no synth there. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm hearing like, oh, you could chord it like this, and you could do. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. I think it tells you a lot more about how you're just going to implicitly put emotion on something, whether it has it or not. I don't know.
Can we try one more?
Yeah.
Can you change the style, or like the style to be like a speakeasy jazz band?
Okay.
I want this one to be instrumental, though. 1930s jazz band.
1930 jazz band. Sad music, heartbreak, loss. Just super simplify it. Mm-hmm. So here we have whispered melodies with more birds.
Chromatic movement.
It's walking.
And it slows. Ooh. So one thing that I can definitely tell is the melodies are not what's evoking emotion. It's like purely the chordal stuff going on. And one thing I talk to my students all the time about when they are struggling to improve at improvising or part writing or working with melodies is if you're playing a stringed instrument or anything that's not including your own breath, then you should be like humming or even singing what you play. Limit yourself to what the human breath is limited to, and you're automatically going to be shaping things that are much more human feeling.
Yeah, because we're so tapped into like that natural phrasing.
Why do people love saxophone or trumpet or even like trombone solos or clarinet so much? It's because it's tied to our own breath system. Unless you're Kenny G and you circular breathe, but that's a whole different thing. But what I hear here, very interesting melodic ideas playing off of the chord structures, interesting chord structures that fit inside of this prompt of something sad and heartbreak, but they're not a single spot other than that the part where they kind of had a retardando in there and they slow down a little bit and change the rhythmic style in the middle. Other than that, there was no breath. There was no break in the melody to let there be more room. And sometimes silence is more important than the notes that you're playing.
Let's see what he did on the second track.
Let's see.
Phrasing's already better. I mean, I could see this behind the scene. Like, Karen, don't go.
There are some interval choices in the melody that seem very cheesy, like they're not hip at all. And it's like really, really square, where it's like I could see it under a scene for like a Hallmark movie, but not behind a scene of like some new big romantic drama blockbuster hit. You know what I mean?
Cindy, you fell in love with my brother. How could you do this to me?
This week on Days of Our Lives.
You went to the doctor and you fell in love with him. I've been in a coma for the past 3 years. Oh.
That was weird.
That was a mistake, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a band. Definitely a solo piano arrangement.
Yeah.
But.
Ooh, can I confuse it?
Oh, yes, I hope so.
I want a klezmer band. How do you spell klezmer? K-L-E-Z-M-E-R? Is it just like it sounds?
I think you're right. Yep, K-L-E-Z-M-E-R.
Klezmer band.
Klezmer band's near me.
What should we have a klezmer band play?
Top 7 klezmer bands for hire in Kokomo, Indiana.
Hey. I don't think there are 7 klezmer bands in Kokomo, Indiana.
What should we have it play? Dubstep.
Oh, yeah. Klezmer dubstep. Boom.
Not even trying to get an emotional response out of this.
So what traditionally makes up a klezmer band? Accordion, clarinet,
let's see what the official response is. Klezmer, the essential elements of a traditional klezmer band include They don't say there. They
Sorry.
say that whole sentence and then they don't say.
Oh no, it did Hava Nagila dubstep remix.
Cool. Musical elements.
Where's the dubstep? Oh, this. This reminds me of. I'm gonna find it. I realize how not unique this is. Sorry.
I wouldn't call this dubstep, but
No.
it's a bop. It's closer. Give me some wubs.
Okay. This reminds me of just the soundtrack of Everything is Illuminated.
Okay. We just talking about like some strong Boots and Cats with more like traditional sounding bands.
It's a Gogo Bordello.
Yes, I know that group. That's a cool group.
But like this.
Start wearing
Wearing purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that dude. Such a good group.
Freaking love it.
So cool.
So good. So klezmer band dubstep is just like Ukrainian folk songs, apparently.
Which I'm all about.
Oh yeah. Bring it.
Sounds so cool.
Go listen to Gogo Bordello. That's gonna be my rec.
Dude,
Should we just transition
you
into
stole
recs?
my rec just now.
God.
Let's do it. So, okay, to wrap all this up, you can evoke all types of emotion through many, many different tools musically, some of which play nicer with each other. At the end of the day, if you are creating something, the best way to evoke the emotion at a starting foundational place is to feel that yourself. And don't think so hard at first about how do I make somebody else feel this, but start from the place of what am I wanting to convey myself, and then branch out from there. Think about the chord relationships that are happening. How does your melody sit with that? What other type of timbre and tonal techniques and layering can you use? We try to see if AI could replicate some of those emotional things. And it is using a lot of those very surface level ideas that we talked about in terms of the chord progressions, using minor chords at the beginning of phrases and then going to major chords for a sense of hope, that kind of stuff, which is cool to see. And it is, in my opinion, one of the more kind of algorithmic pattern-based sides of the equation there. But it's a cool little experiment, and it was fun to use Suno for a little bit. That's my first time in real time doing that kind of stuff.
That's why it's fun to play with.
It's
if
pretty
nothing
cool.
else.
Idea generator. But I would say, Jeremy, what have you been listening to? But I think we already know what your recommendation is going to be.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. Gogo Bordello, the album Pravida Conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a banger. It just feels good. It just feels good.
It's so cool. Well, while we're going for, I guess, more worldly groups, I suppose.
World music.
World music. I could have mentioned this artist before, but he's too good not to mention again, and it's fitting. But Daði Freyr, he's an Icelandic guy. And his music is awesome. So dang catchy. And he has some albums that are all in Icelandic, which is a wickedly cool, confusing language. So if you want to hear that, you can definitely check those out. But his top album for me is probably, is it Welcome? It's one of his first EPs. He also won Eurovision, I think, is how he got one of his first starts. His music videos are awesome. They just have these like super weird little dances, and he has like a whole documentary on how he filmed his own music videos. One of which is like they made a like robot costume to fight this big old monster thing, but they're out. I think he like owns and lives on a farm in Iceland. So just, he's so cool. His music is insanely catchy, and pretty much all of it, if you just want something that's feel good and also well done, check out Dathi Freyr. He's awesome.
I'm glad you pronounced it, because I would not know how.
Yeah, I don't know what that symbol is called, but I've heard his name said, and it's like a D, but with a TH in front of it.
Dathi?
Yeah, something like that. I'm probably saying it wrong too, but it'll be in the comments, or sorry, it's it'll be linked down below. Both of these, if you want to check them out. Link to the Discord is down below if you want to join that community over there. Above all those links, though, is this cool little button that says subscribe. And then next to it is a little thumbs up. So if you liked it, hit the like button. If you aren't already, hit subscribe. Stay up to date with what we're doing. And there's also going to be a link for recordingstudiouniversity.com. If you're interested at all in those things we were talking about, all you have to do is go there and put your email address in. You're not going to get a bunch of spam emails. You're not going to get a bunch of requests for buy this, buy that. It's just so you can stay updated in something that you expressed a little bit of interest in as we build it out and figure out all the different directions we're going to go with it. So, if you made it this long, what's emotional? What's an emotional thing? We're running out of time, Jeremy. We need something emotional. What's an emotional emoji?
Toaster.
Toaster. If you stuck around this long, drop a toaster or a piece of toast in the comments below. And with that, we'll see you next time.